An entire town vanished, disappeared without a trace. It was a chilly November day when a man named Joe LaBelle makes his way to a remote Canadian village. And what he finds is horrifying. It's completely deserted. Campfires still warm, meals half-eaten. The village of over 30 men, women, and children, gone. Vanished. No signs of a struggle, no goodbye, no explanation. Just an entire town that vanished overnight. One of the creepiest unsolved mysteries in North America. This is the missing village. On a cold November day in 1930, an experienced fur trapper named Joe LaBelle packed his things into his canoe and made his usual journey to a remote Inuit village near Lake Anjikuni, deep in the icy wilderness of northern Canada. Joe had been there before and was going there this day for lodging. The village was filled with nearly 30 men, women, and children. Joe was at the end of his trip and the weather had actually been pretty mild. He was looking forward to making it to the village for a warm plate of food and friendly faces. He knew the people and they were very welcoming. As they had done before, he would get there and exchange furs for food. A good little deal they had going. As he made his way further downstream, he sees the village. He can see the sheds and huts and makes his way towards them. He approaches the frozen shoreline, gets out of his canoe, and makes his way into the village. But what Joe found is nothing short of a nightmare. Something no one has ever been able to explain. The village is eerily silent. It's so quiet. No activity. At first, he believes that since it's earlier in the day, maybe many of the villagers were off hunting. But as he made his way deeper into the village, he begins to sense that something is very wrong. There wasn't a person in sight. Fires were still burning. He walked through the once bustling area to find open doorways and half-eaten meals still sitting on tables. Freshly prepared food was laid out, ready to cook. Huts were stocked with food. Clothes were drying on lines. But the people, gone. All of them. Every single member of this village had disappeared. LaBelle continued to search through the village, trying to find out what's going on here. And what he finds next is haunting. The graves in the village had been dug up. The plots where the villagers' family and friends were once laid to rest were now just empty holes filled with ice. As the day went on, Joe couldn't make sense of it. He stayed there throughout the day, but no one ever returns. He's sitting there like, hello? Where is everybody? The once busy village was now a ghost town. The day goes by and it's about to get dark soon, and as much as Joe doesn't like the idea of traveling out into the wilderness this late, he really didn't want to spend the night in this haunted, deserted, creepy village. And I don't blame him, because that's scary. So he gathers up as much food as he can find, makes his way back to his canoe, and sets off downstream. And when he looks back one last time, he notices that the village has this strange blue glow to it. He is scared and hurries away from the village as quickly as he can. This is all just too bizarre. LaBelle continued on to the nearest telegraph office and alerted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They launch an investigation. Imagine that telegram like, hey, an entire town vanished. Just wanted to let you know. So that first week in January 1931, police set off for Lake Anjikuni. They're gonna get to the bottom of this. There's no way an entire village disappeared. Right? The group is led by Sergeant J. Nelson, and the investigators are instructed to question any hunters they encounter on their way to the village. Maybe someone knows something. There were reports they stopped by a local hospital where they spoke with a man named Samuel, another trapper. He had been found by another group of hunters in a bad way. He was discovered alone in a snowdrift with extreme frostbite. Police ask him if he knows anything about the missing village, and he made some pretty eerie comments about an evil spirit. It's well known in local folklore, and it's vengeful. Described as a large, horrifying creature with big tusks on either sides of its mouth. It's said it has the ability to manipulate nature and create snowstorms. And these kinds of evil entities are quite common in this area of wilderness. Stories of the Sasquatch and other creatures. Investigators are like, Okay, and they don't get much else out of him. They're not sure if he really means this or if he's in a bad fever dream because, again, he has really bad frostbite. But I imagine they're like, this is starting to get really weird. What have we gotten ourselves into? From there, they make their way to another village 100 miles away because it was reported that 2 months earlier, a young boy entered their village late one night. The villagers confirmed the story, and when they asked the boy where he came from, he wouldn't answer. They said the young boy hasn't talked since getting there. Surrounding tribes didn't recognize the boy either. Is it possible that he's one of the villagers that disappeared? The plot thickens. But they don't get much information there either. Next, investigators spoke with another trapper named Armand Laurent and his 2 sons. And this is where things get even creepier, if that's possible. Armand tells the investigators that recently he and his sons had seen unexplained and eerie bluish lights in the sky. And they said that this light seemed to follow them. They tell investigators that this was not the Northern Lights, this was something strange and unlike anything they had ever seen. They also said they saw a large cylindrical object that transformed into a bullet shape before taking off towards Lake Anjikuni. Police take this information and continue on towards the missing village. And once they get there, it's exactly as Joe LaBelle said. The village was completely empty. Once the home of nearly 30 people, it was a ghost town. Investigators are instructed to search the village, try and find anything they can, any trace of what happened to these people. Police find their kayaks still sitting on the beach, meals still sitting over long dead fires. Hauntingly, inside one of the huts, they find a child's coat, halfway mended, with a needle and thread lying there. It's like the people were there one second and gone the next. What could cause such a sudden departure? And just like Joe said, investigators found every grave in the village had been dug up, each one opened and emptied. There was frozen ice around these holes, and investigators found no sign they had been dug out with a tool or by hand. And they see the headstones are neatly stacked in 2 piles on either side of the graves, which clearly ruled out animals. Investigators spent the day in this ghost village and found no explanation for what happened. There were no signs of a struggle or a fight, and given that they left behind coats, food, weapons, and other important items that villagers would need to survive, it's also unlikely that they packed up and left, as they left everything behind. Whatever happened quickly. So the sergeant says, we need to head out. So they leave. Sergeant Nelson looks into Joe LaBelle and finds some inconsistencies. He learns that he supposedly sold his story about the vanished village to a local newspaper that was reportedly known for reporting strange and oftentimes untrue stories. Police look into Joe more and find that he isn't an experienced fur trapper, as he said. He only got his trapper's license the year prior. But ultimately, police didn't feel like this meant anything malicious. It was known that many trappers would operate without a license for years until they were forced to get one, so that was a possibility. And police never found any evidence that Joe was lying or had any involvement with the villagers' disappearance. Investigators had never seen an entire town disappear before, but there's a first time for everything. Police really found nothing, and they had no explanation for any of it. Just saying that it didn't seem criminal in nature. There were no signs of disturbances in the village. There were no signs of any panic. There were no signs of any foul play. It was truly like the people there just simultaneously got up and left. But why? The people in that town left behind everything: coats, tools, food, all the things they would need to survive. There is a possibility that maybe they were running from something. They're out in the wild. Maybe they sensed a threat, and they quickly took off. That isn't crazy, but it doesn't explain the dug-up graves. I can't wrap my head around that one. Also, it's a huge sign of disrespect to mess with the remains of loved ones. So it's hard to believe they would do that. Very hard to believe. A town of 30 men, women, and children were there one second and gone the next. It's like something took them. There's never been any sort of explanation as to how or why an entire village vanished. So what happened? Let's discuss the theories. because there's quite a few. First up, supernatural forces. Some Inuit legends speak of these dark entities, spirits beneath the ice that drag humans into the dark. I don't like the sound of that at all. There are all kinds of strange and unexplained disappearances in the Canadian wilderness, and some believe there's a supernatural element to some of these vanishings. Is this area some kind of a supernatural portal, like the Bermuda Triangle? Next theory, alien abduction. Those witnesses say strange lights were seen in the sky that night, cylindrical, hovering, and that unexplained blue light. What is it? It reportedly follows people and was seen heading in the direction of the village. And then the town goes missing. What is up with that? Another theory? Mass migration. But again, who abandons their food, coats, weapons, and means of travel? That doesn't make sense. Some believe the story is just folklore, legend. And over time, as you can imagine, this case has really captivated people. Various authors have included this story in their works, and the RCMP has been asked to share more information on the case. What do they have? What do they know? But they reportedly said there was nothing criminal about this case, and it's an exaggeration of what happened. Then what actually happened then? We're waiting. Since the original report of this, published in 1930, there have been numerous embellishments over the years from other publications. But many others believe this is real, and it's not the first time it's happened. One of the most well-documented disappearances like this in history, the lost colony of Roanoke. In 1587, over 100 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, North Carolina, eager to build a new life in the New World. When their governor, John White, sailed back to England for supplies and reinforcements, he left behind his daughter, granddaughter, and the rest of the colony, never expecting that this would be the last time he would ever see them. He was delayed by war for 3 years. When White finally returned in 1590, the settlement was eerily empty, deserted. There was no sign of a struggle or attack. It looked like the colonists had left willingly. But where did they go? No graves, no bodies, just a single word carved into a tree, Croatoan. Some say they joined a nearby tribe or fell victim to disease or famine, but others whispered of curses, spirits in the woods, something supernatural. To this day, no one really knows what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke. An entire group of people vanished without a trace, and will likely never know what happened in either case, as any witnesses are long gone. But this is one of the most unsettling mysteries I've ever heard of. It's hard to wrap your head around one person disappearing. But when it's a mass disappearance, that's pretty mind-bending. It makes you think if an entire town can vanish, what's next? But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think happened to this village? Where did all these people go? Question mark. What would cause these people to up and leave without any of their belongings? And what's with those dug-up graves? Question mark. Exclamation point. Do you think it's a legend, or is there some truth there? Let me know your thoughts in the comments here on YouTube. Subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, and turn on post notifications. Next episode, I've got so much more coming your way. Until then, check out these videos. You could pick that one. Pretty spooky. Or that one. Pretty eerie. Ooh, which one are you gonna pick?